One thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new day blooms as we free it. For there is always light, if only we are brave enough to see it, if only we are brave enough to be it. I start with this poem written by National Youth Poet Laureate Amanda Gorman because of the beautiful images of light and courage that it conveys. I start with this as I want to weave 4 themes into my remarks today, and the most prominent of these themes is the virtue of courage. Courage is the most significant. As poet, author, and civil rights activist Maya Angelou says, courage is the most important of all of the virtues, because without courage, you can't practice any other virtue consistently. And so I begin with the theme of courage. Think for a moment. The year is 1911. Look at that slide. Imagine JD trying to get the soccer team to Bucks County in that. Very different time. It's 1911. And 4 sisters of St. Basil the Great leave Ukraine and come to Philadelphia because they were asked to do that, to educate and care for Ukrainian American orphans. Think of how courageous that action was. Look at the distance. Over 5,000 miles. There were no airplanes. Look at the sea in front of them and what they had to navigate. A long trip to a whole new world with very little money and very few resources, facing a great challenge. And they came, and the work they were asked to do began. Yesterday, I asked Sister Clement and Sister Joanne about this. Their answer, very humble and very sincere, we did it because it needed to be done. And think how these sisters continued to display this virtue of courage. 1931, the Great Depression, they opened St. Basil's Academy. I asked why. They said, because it needed to be done. It's what we needed in society at that time. And they were not finished. In 1947, they opened what is now Manor College. Easy? No way. Courageous? Without a doubt. Now, if many of us were faced with these same decisions, with few resources, a challenge that they didn't really even understand, they didn't even know where they were coming. If we were faced with those same decisions that these brave, valiant sisters were faced, many of us would say, why? Why do that? I believe the better way to look at this, the way I believe the sisters looked at it, lies in the remarks of Dr. Claudine Gay, former president of Harvard University. Dr. Gay stated, "When faced with a decision that calls for courage, the answer is not why, but why not?" Dr. Gay goes on to say, "Why not is a call to action, the aspiration to do what might seem impossible." Yes, the Sisters of St. Basil the Great, upon whose shoulders we stand, lived courageously. With their answer of why not, the sisters brought alive the words of Amanda Gorman and Maya Angelou. If one has courage, nothing can dim the light that shines from within. Again, we see that connection between courage and light. These courageous women, the Sisters of St. Basil the Great, made manifest the words of Matthew's Gospel. "Let your light shine for all the world to see. All will see the good you do and give praise to your Creator." It is for this reason that the Sisters of St. Basil the Great have been chosen to receive this year's Lumen Christi Award, the Light of Christ Award. They were chosen for the courage they continue to display. They were chosen as they, and this is the quote from the Lumen Christi Committee, because they stand with those caught in the middle of war. They stand simply and profoundly as the light of Christ, serving as Jesus would. And that is what Manor College is built upon. That is the work of the sisters who sit here with us today and continue that wonderful display of courage. And courage is the key virtue, as it enables us to live the other virtues I said I would weave into this address. I chose to focus on these four virtues, as I believe that it is these that provide us the blueprint, the roadmap that we can use to continue to do the work of the Sisters of St. Basil the Great and to live out the mission of our beloved college. These themes come to us from the prophet Micah. Micah's writings rebuked the people of Israel for their dishonest and deceitful ways and called for them to change their hearts. Micah, in chapter 6, verse 8, that has been described as an imaginary conversation between the people of Israel and their God. In this verse, Micah provides the people of Israel with the answer to the question, what does God want of us? A question we ask ourselves today. Thus, the first theme, the first answer, to act justly. Micah's answer to this question of what God expects begins with the theme of justice. The need for social justice in our world is as evident now as it was in the time of Micah. This call to justice urges us to have a moral compass, to live with a proper sense of right and wrong. It calls us not to do what is popular, but at times to go against the grain so that we embrace and live the gospel. It calls us to let our light shine. As I suggested, the Sisters of St. Basil continue to do. The concept of justice applies to how we treat others and how we live when no one is watching. The concept of justice invites us to create a world where all people have equal opportunity to fully develop the gifts that God has placed within their hearts. The concept of justice requires action and not mere lip service. And it leads me to the theme of tender mercy, to live with tender care. One translation from the Hebrew is to live in loving kindness. I am a big fan of the great poet and author William Shakespeare. And I think of what he said about mercy in his classic tragedy, The Merchant of Venice. Shakespeare wrote, "Mercy droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath." Just think of that image. Soft rain falling gently upon us, giving us and giving the earth what it needs. It's the image of mercy that Shakespeare suggests. And he goes on to say, "Mercy blesseth they that giveth and they that taketh." It is an attribute of God himself. Shakespeare suggests that when mercy and justice meet, the result is a power likened to the power of God. And he suggests that that power lies in each one of us. Mercy calls us to examine how we treat those around us. It calls us to have compassion for those in need. And it leads me to the final theme I share, and that is of walking humbly. This theme suggests to us the importance of relying not only on ourselves, but on one another and on our God. It calls us to invest in healing the world around us through justice and through mercy as we journey on the path of life. The idea of walking, of taking a walk, suggests the importance of being fully engaged in knowing where our life is headed. It suggests that life is a path, and we do not walk it alone. We believe that we walk with our God. We are called to walk humbly by supporting our fellow travelers on the path, especially those weakened by the challenges of the journey. Walking humbly suggests a simple acceptance of the gifts we have been given, the gifts with which God has graced us. We are called to recognize our gifts and to share these gifts. We are called to live courageously, to live in the light and to be the light. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., in his moving and inspiring book, Strength to Love, suggested a formula for living in the light and for being the light, especially when faced with challenges that make it difficult. Dr. King wrote, "Returning hate for hate multiplies hate, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars." Dr. King went on to say, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." And so, what does all of this mean for us at Manor College? This past weekend, the remarks of Pope Francis to the International Federation of Catholic Universities were shared with me. I reflected on the words of Pope Francis, who said, "A Catholic university must make choices that reflect the gospel. Catholic universities must take a stand, helping students discover their vocations so they contribute to peace and to the betterment of society." I read that and I said to myself, so what? Well, I close with this thought to answer that rather bold and brazen question, so what? I often hear from prospective students, "Why do I need a college education? I'm doing okay. I can make $15 or $20 an hour, yes, maybe at a manual job, but it provides for me, and college may cause me to go into debt. In higher education, we face the challenge of answering that question clearly and succinctly and with conviction. And when you think of it, answering that question is invigorating, it is exciting, and most of all, it is important. We might say that the answer is your earning power. There's no doubt, research shows us, that with a minimum of an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, you have the potential to earn more money than you would without one. But that can't be the answer. That can't be the only answer, and that definitely cannot be the answer for those of us at Manor College. What I believe the answer to that question is for us at Manor College is much more values-based. We do what we do at Manor to provide the opportunity to influence society in an impactful way with messages of peace, by demonstrating hospitality, by making a commitment to create a world in which social justice is paramount and in which mercy and love abound. I believe we want to create a world where we build bridges, conquer evil with good, offense with forgiveness, and to live in peace with everyone. We do what we do at Manor College in imitation of Jesus the Christ and to live the gospel. We do what we do to be the light to dispel the darkness, and that takes courage. But why not? Thank you very much.